Hello everyone, welcome to my art room. I'm so glad you're going to join me today. Today I'm going to work on my Gelli Arts. This is the 9 by 12 plate. It's about as big as a plate I can use in my little filming space here, which is quite small. And I'm going to work today on some plain copy paper. And I have some cheap gift wrap tissue that I've cut down to size. So I wanted to play today with some homemade stencils. I love using stencils. Some of my favorite stencils comes from Joggles, and they're Elizabeth St. Hilaire's stencils. So if you haven't heard of her or you haven't heard of Joggles, go check them out. There are lots of items that you can use to create texture and interest using items that you can find around the house or things that you can make really easily on your own. So that's what I'm going to do today. I have a basket full of trash essentially, and if I find something that has an interesting pattern to it, I throw it in this basket and I give it a try on the gel plate. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but it's always a fun experiment. Today I wanted to work in some reds. I've got a variety of reds and even magenta, so it's more pink. So reds and some teals. So this is a teal that I mixed myself. This is more of a green teal, again, that I've mixed myself. So I just grabbed a whole bunch of different paints that are around me. I have some of these little liquid or fluid acrylics from Golden. I don't know. I'm just going to let my imagination take me where it goes. So in the end, I decided to speed this video up, even though I originally talked through it. Even edited, it was over an hour long. So I had to speed it up, and now I'm doing the voiceover. So my hands will no longer coordinate with my voice. So I'm starting here with some packing material, which is big circles, and I'm doing 2 layers because I really like the overlap, and I'm going to have to let this layer dry completely before I do the next layer. And I'm initially thinking I want to do tone on tone and create more subtle papers. You're going to see in a minute that this attempt turns out to be mostly disastrous, but I left it in because I thought it was good to show that not every single attempt is perfect. Where I live, it's very hot, and where I do my art is quite warm. I have a big window and it's beautiful. There's lots of natural light, but it heats my room up. And this is gift wrap tissue, so you cannot leave it on the plate to dry because here is a perfect example of why. It will stick to the plate and just rip. And I knew that, but I didn't realize just how warm it was in my room, how quickly that paint was going to dry. This is also a relatively new gel plate, so it's really sticky. And even at this point, I'm thinking I'll be able to salvage that copy paper because copy paper is wonderful to work with on the gel plate. But it really stuck to the plate hard. And so I struggled to get it off. Eventually, I just pull it. I cut my losses and I pull it off. And in the end, you can't even see, the colors are so similar. I lost the pattern. So I'm starting over again. And I could have started the video here, but I thought that was really fun to show that, you know, everybody makes mistakes. So here I am with the bubble wrap again. And you can leave it with one layer, of course. I like the double layer. And this time I decide to use more contrast. So I'm using this blue turquoise. You have to let every layer dry. If you're adding layers on the plate, you have to make sure that each layer dries completely before you add the next layer. And here I am. I put the paper down, I rubbed it quickly, and you can see I'm still struggling to get it off the plate. But it did come out intact. And I pointed out that these wrinkles are not flaws in my gel plate. They're just wrinkles where the tissue paper didn't lay down flat. So here I am making another layer. I'm going to see if I can pull up more of a print left on the plate. And I go back in with the tissue paper. And again, put it down, rub it a bit, and pull it off. You cannot let gift wrap tissue paper sit. So this is pretty. I mean, it's a nice background. And I'm going to try one more time to see if I can get some more of that paint off and just add another layer here. I'm using in this time, I'm going to make some pattern with this cardboard. This is packing material. I've pulled off one side of the board and it revealed these really cool shapes. And they create a really nice pattern. You can leave it at one pass, but I like the chaos. So I add both. I'm going to pick it up with the Robin Egg Blue. And this is tone on tone, which works really, really nicely because it's a really dark teal and it's a really light blue. I'm going back in with the copy paper. I think this is the last time I used the copy paper because it really, the paint is just drying so fast. And I'm afraid that with the plate being new, it's going to just rip the copy paper. So I think after this, I stick to tissue paper. And with really cheap tissue paper, it's best to do one layer at a time. So you do a background layer and you pull that, and then you can add pattern on top, one layer at a time. And it's going to be easier for the tissue paper to soak that in. This fluid acrylic works really well on the plate in my hot room. It stays wet just a touch longer and I'm able to work with it a little bit more. You can see it really cleanly pulls up using the bubble wrap. I am disappointed with this one. The red is so dark. I thought it would be brighter on top of that. Anytime you have a paper towel roll or even tissue paper, toilet paper, keep those rolls. There's so many wonderful things you can make using rolls. So I've just taken this twine and I've cut edges and wrapped the twine in, and I can roll that now across the page and it creates lines and stripes. I'm going to try this. This is just a backing mat, like a non-stick mat. I'm going to try to roll it onto the plate and see if I can get that checked pattern. But you can do so many things with paper towel rolls and create lots of wonderful pattern. So I rolled it on and I really liked it, but then I smudged it and it created these lovely streaks. So I thought I'm going to try and see what that will look like on top of that green teal. And it's interesting. I mean, it's not amazing, but it's interesting. This is back to just cardboard. Again, I've removed one side of it and revealed these edges, which are great to press in. I've cut them into smaller strips because I personally don't want the lines to match up. But if you really want your lines neat, then you just will cut, you'll keep a wider section together at the same, so that you can make really good presses. And then I'm here pressing it in. So I'm going for a little bit more of a plaid. And this, like I said, this fluid acrylic is much easier to work with in the conditions my room is in right now. It gives me just a touch longer to pull that. So here is the same string I had wrapped around that paper towel roll, and I'm just going to use it to make a print. I got this idea from Susan Clifton. She's an amazing mixed media artist. You can go check her out. She also uses rubber bands to make really interesting gel prints. So I'm just going to arrange, I don't know, in an interesting way, I guess. And I'm going to pull the original print here, and which will leave white edges. And then I'm going to pull the ghost on that blue turquoise background I made just a few minutes ago. And it comes up really lovely. I mean, the detail is quite impressive. And these white lines, if I use a gel gloss medium or a matte medium and adhere it down to another page, those white lines are going to go very transparent, and you'll be able to see any print that's underneath it. So it's fun to have those types of paper in your stash. So here the plate, I think, is just being, it's been worked now a little bit. There's lots that's being left. There's a lot of paint being left on the plate, but it's becoming a little bit easier to work with. And I really like that background, so I'm going to make another one. So this is, I'm not exactly sure what this is. I'm going to call it a ribbon. I found it at a shop that was going out of business, and it had a lot of Christmas decor. And so this looks like bark to me, but on one side it's got even glitter on it. So I'm not sure what the actual purpose of this ribbon is. It was a huge roll that I got for, maybe like $1. It was just a happy find. So I'm pressing it in to the red paint. I'm going to pick it up with the blue background and see if I can get that. I mean, it almost looks like an organic, maybe an animal print, or I don't know, it doesn't look too much like wood once you pull it up, but it does okay. I think if I were using paper with more absorption and I could leave it longer on the plate, it would pick up more of that print. But I want to use the tissue paper. And so I have to, live within the limitations of it. So I searched in my stash and I found this turquoise in the fluid acrylic because the fluid acrylic is working so much better on the plate for me right now. And I'm going to try this again. Have to switch my brayer to this little one because as I was rolling it out, I would like mask with that big brayer. I was pulling the paint and the pattern off. So I've done the same, pattern and process, but in reverse. So I had one with the blue background and then one with the red background, and those were the results. So this is a fun thing. This is, I'm not exactly sure what this is, like a patching material or drywall tape. It's from, like a Home Depot. It's for home improvement, and it's sticky on one side, and it's this very tight grid pattern. And I decide to try and so I put the tape down, and I'm going to push the paint into that tiny grid pattern, and it makes a wonderful sound when you brayer it on, and see if I can get just that tiny, tiny print. It was not easy to press through. The holes are quite small, so I'm using a lot of force. But I am very happy with the way it turned out. I think the result was really good. So I liked the circle pattern that I had created as I was trying to get this bottle is mostly empty. And so then I thought that would be a fun print, and you could make this kind of print using any circle, a lid, anything. You could dip it into paint and then put it onto your gel plate. You could print this directly onto paper, but it makes a fun pattern. And again, if I use a medium to to paint this paper down to collage it onto another piece, the tissue paper is going to go very translucent and leave those circles. So here's the ghost. It did all right. And then I was inspired by the open circles, and I thought, let's do some closed circles. So this is a tool for clay. I use it on the gel print. So you roll it and you can leave the pattern that's on the side. But I just wanted the dots. So you could do this with Q-tips. You could do this with a lid of something. You can do it with your fingertip. It's a fun way to add some interest. I'm putting it on that blue background. This one turns into one of my favorite pulls of the day. I think the pattern is fun. The colors are bright. So at this point, my plate is quite thick. Those layers have dried, undried, and dried on top of each other, and I decide I need to clean the plate. So I've pulled out some mixed media paper. It's 120 grams, or sorry, 120 pounds. And I'm going to use this to clean my plate off. And I leave this for about an hour. I put books on top of it, and I just let it sit for about an hour so that the layers will really soak down through those many layers of paint that have dried. So the magic of editing, that hour has passed, and now I'm very carefully trying to remove the paper. It is stuck quite good to the plate. It did an excellent job of pulling the paint off the plate, but I'm really battling. So I finally think, oh, I'm just gonna pull this. I'll pull the plate off the paper, and I get a much better result that way. If I had left this overnight, I think it would have been very easy. The paint on the edges was still a little bit wet, so it hadn't dried completely. So this is a mat that I found at the dollar store, and I think it's like a heating pad. I just like it because it's got this really cool pattern on it, and I used to do more resin art, and I bought a bunch of these to let my resin pieces dry as they sat and dried. And I don't use resin anymore, but the pattern on that is really fun, and it's great on the gel plate. I'm putting this on that blue background. This was the magenta, and it was way too purple. It doesn't match my color theme at all, which was sort of reds and teals. But it still created a great paper. And I used it as a stamp. So after I had pressed it down into the plate, I took that heating pad and pressed it down into my roll-off sheet. And there you can see the pattern it created. This is a fun thing to do. If you have a hot glue gun, you can make something like this very easily. You need a heat-proof mat, and you just paint squiggles with your glue gun, and it's just a lot of fun. So this paint that I put down first is an red Oxide, and it's kind of a brown red, so I wasn't sure that would work, kind of the color palette I'm attempting. And here, now that I've been using this plate, I've gone back and I've tried my very first pull, which was to put down the copy paper and the tissue paper. And you can see I'm much more successful. I'm faster. I didn't let it sit quite as long, and it pulls up really well. And I love those squiggles. This is also something that's really easy to do. You have a heat resistant mat. This is just glue dots. So they're from the glue gun. I just made dots and then I smashed them, and they created these wonky shapes, which I'm going to use as a mask. It's very easy to do. There's lots of patterns you can create using a glue gun, and you can do the glue onto cardboard. You could do the glue onto the paper towel roll. This is something I want to do in the future. I want to do just drizzling onto the paper towel roll, and then I can roll the paper towel roll and create a print. This one turns out really fun. I like it. That one turned out great. These are pieces that I'm using for collage. So I'm not looking to make a print that's a solid print that I'm going to love and display. The intention for me is to rip these up, cut these up, to use them in combination, and to create another project. So this is not my end goal. This is just a step in my process. It is possible to make beautiful prints in one pull. It's just not what I'm doing. This pull that I'm about to do, when my daughter saw it, she said, "Oh, it looks like jellyfish." So I thought that was fun. All right, for me, it's a new day. For you, it was a simple edit. Let's look at some of the things that I created. This was my very first sort of disastrous piece on the copy paper. It still has some interesting places, and I can definitely add more to it. These were warm-up tissues that you did not see me make. So I was trying to do the tone on tone, and I used the circles, the bubble wrap, the big bubble wrap. So those I did before I started the camera. This is a pickup sheet I was using throughout. I think it turned out really interesting, and certainly it could still take some more layers. This one, I used the wrong color. It's way too pink for this color palette, or purple, but I really like it, and I can definitely add some more layers. And the same with this one. This one is not one I'm really pleased with, but again, more layers can improve that. And then the rest of these, you saw. This one I really like. Turned out well. I think the colors are interesting. There's some combinations of light and dark. I like this one. It's really simple. And since I use these for collage, I'm not looking to use the whole thing. I'm looking to use a piece of it here and a piece of it there. This was the string. I mean, you can really see the texture of the cord that I used. It came out really detailed, far more detailed than I expected. And this was the pickup sheet, which is also interesting. This was the tape, I'm not sure. This is from Home Depot. So it's patching tape, or I'm not sure what the actual name is, but it created a very interesting print. I like that. I could add more layers to that, but I probably won't. This one's a bit messy, but I like those circles. And this one I love. This is a great color combination. This is sort of more what I was imagining with maybe the darker reds and the lighter blues. So I did get there in the end. And this is just all the circles, which I think is really fun. This was the pull that I did on the mixed media paper. It's really textured and looks cool. So this is one that I did on copy paper. So after I turned the camera off, I actually went looking through some of my supplies and remembered that I had newsprint. And newsprint is wonderful for jelly printing. It's very absorbent. It's quite a hefty paper, so it can take a lot of moisture. And so I did a few more pulls off camera, and these are all on newsprint. So this one I just used a Q-tip and made some lines, and then I used the same hot glue gun scribbles on it, and really cute. Like how that turned out. Same thing here. I love this one. It's really fun. The scribble pattern is so random. And these I just left without any stencils because I always need just some plain colors, right, to tone down collages. And then this one I did with those glue dots that I flattened out, the hot glue that I flattened out, and just made some petal. And this was my final pickup, so I was trying to get all the edges cleaned off and everything. And yeah, so that's pretty fun too. So I hope you enjoyed this and are inspired to look around your home and look for things that you can use to make some great textures and great prints without spending any money. And I will see you next time. Bye.